Welcome to Frontlines. We are pleased this evening to have a special guest joining us from Armenia, who is currently in the United States, specifically in the Midwest, in the city of Chicago. Our guest is none other than Tatul Hakobyan, who has been previously documenting on a daily basis the 44-day war of aggression that took place, wherein Azerbaijan, Turkey, and mercenaries attacked Artsakh, Armenians of Artsakh, and Armenia. Frontlines is especially proud to be co-hosting this event, which is taking place in the city of Chicago at the Honorary Consulate of the Republic of Armenia's offices. Tatul Hakobyan's diary, daily diary, which is documented in the book known as Valley of Death, will be discussed by Tatul, and we are very eager to hear. Welcome, Tatul, and Karnig, please tell us what's going on in Chicago.
Thank you, Garo. It is really an honor to have this opportunity to peek in to what is happening at the Honorary Consulate of the Republic of Armenia this evening in Chicago. And I would like to introduce, in order to get the ball rolling, to introduce Honorary Consul Oscar Tatosyan, who has served in that post for a number of years in Chicago and has been very instrumental in activating and directing the Armenian community here in Chicago to undertake a number of cultural and heritage-based activities throughout the city of Chicago and the Midwest, in fact. And he and his team have been kind enough to host Mr. Hakobyan today. And so I'd like to shift it over to Chicago and Honorary Consul Oscar Tatosyan to give us a couple of welcoming remarks before Mr. Hakobyan gives his presentation.
Thank you, Karnig, and thank you, Garo. It's truly a privilege to be with you this evening. It's also a privilege to serve as Honorary Consul representing the Republic of Armenia in Chicago and the surrounding states. When I say it's a privilege, not only is it a privilege, but it's also, for me, it's an obligation, and for my team. Whatever we can do to support Armenia, Armenians all over the world, we're prepared to do so. It's been a challenging year for Armenia, for Artsakh, for Armenians all over the world. It's been more painful than we could have ever imagined in our worst nightmares, but I know we'll prevail because that's our history. And the diaspora has an important role to play. Each and every one of us can contribute to these efforts to rebuilding. So, and some of our efforts you'll hear about, they'll be public, and a lot of things you won't hear about. They'll be quiet behind the scenes. But if we all work together, I know we can prevail. And tonight's conversation provided through the Frontlines online series, we're pleased to support with Garo and Karnig. And it's good to see you again, Tatul, from our past conversations. And it's also, Arsen, good to have you here. So I'll turn it back to you for the program and wish you all very well. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Oscar, and thank you again for opening up the Honorary Consulate of the Republic of Armenia for such important messages. You've been doing a tremendous job in really welcoming the roots of Armenia, of Armenian activism, into the hallowed halls of the consulate, and we really do appreciate that. I speak now as a member of the Chicago Armenian community, and I have to say the work that you've been doing is absolutely tremendous. Not in the least of which is the opportunity that you've presented here, and that is welcoming Mr. Tatul Hakobyan, who is on a trip throughout the United States, if I understand correctly, and this is one of his stops along the way, and the Honorary Consulate is the place where he has stopped and has welcomed him in to give to join us in a discussion really about what happened in the 44-day war, and specifically from the notes of his own diary. And those of you who have followed Mr. Hakobyan reporting on the Artsakh war know that he had been on the front lines for days on end, in and out of Stepanakert, as well as we connected with him a couple of times on front lines and from Goris, where internet connection was a little bit more stable. But we, as well as the entire, all the followers and viewers from across the United States and of course throughout the globe, are anxious to hear what Mr. Tatul Hakobyan has to say about his reflections on the war. Really is the third Qarabakh war in many ways is the best way to describe it. We cannot forget the events of April 2016. And that being said, Tatul, I'd like to turn it over to you. We'll change the view here so that the guests can get a direct view. And we look forward to having a question and answer session at the end of his presentation. And we invite the viewers that are there are people obviously at the consulate who will have questions physically in person. And those of you that are online, please do not hesitate to post your questions, and Garo and I will do our best to field those questions and ask those questions of Mr. Hakobyan during the question and answer session. Without any further ado, Tatul, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Karnig. Thank you, Garo. Thank you, Oscar, and all of you gathering here. Karnig, you said that this was the third war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but I think this was the fifth war between Armenians and Azerbaijanis. We started kill each other since at the first years of the 20th century. At that time, it was called Armenian Tatar clashes. It took place in several places, like in Baku, in Shushi, in Nakhichevan, in Yerevan. At that time, Armenia and today's Armenia and Azerbaijan was part of the Romanov-Russian Empire. Then we killed each other, Armenians and Azeris, during a short time of our independence republic between 1918 and 1920s. At that time, there was a battle for several territories contested by Armenians and Azerbaijanis, namely Artsakh, Zangezur, today's Syunik, Nakhichevan, Kars, Kazakh, and other. Even Azeris at that time said that Zangibasar and Vedibasar, which are today's Masis region and Vedi region of Republic of Armenia, is part of historic Azerbaijan. So when now Mr. Aliyev, Ilham Aliyev, says that Yerevan is Azeri, ancient Azeri city, this is not new for Azerbaijani falsification. So 100 years ago, they claimed surrounding territories of Yerevan and Ararat Valley. Then we fought each other in the first years of our independence, 1991, 1994. Then the fourth war, April war of 2016, and the last one, last year's disastrous war, 44-day war, and unfortunately we have lost that war. Actually, I do believe that we have lost the battle, and war is not over yet. If Armenians and Azeris want peace in our region, prosperity in our region, I think zero-sum game is not an acceptable solution. And what we have now, we have not zero-sum game, but 80% to 20%. So Armenians will never accept today's status quo. I can say that we lost Artsakh 50%, but we Armenians and Armenia have enough power and strength and capacity to keep it under Armenian control. So if we Now in Artsakh, we have a new reality after November 10th statement. While traveling from Goris to Stepanakert, for example, now you drive through the Russian peacekeepers, and close to Shushi, you can see Azerbaijani flags, Azeri soldiers. As you know now, historical Armenian city, Shushi is under the occupation of Azeri forces, as well as Hadrut region of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh. Today, in reality, Artsakh security is guaranteed by Russian peacekeepers. We can even say that in a way, Artsakh is under the joint Russian-Armenian control. But if we have to be honest, Artsakh is under the control of Russia. Now, as I said, we have a new reality in Nagorno-Karabakh and a completely new situation in Armenia's southern region of Syunik. Within the few weeks of the war, the Azerbaijani side was able to restore the Soviet Armenian and Soviet Azerbaijani borderline. With Azerbaijan so close, the residents in Syunik are asking how the security of their roads will be guaranteed. The 44-day Karabakh war has changed the situation on the ground, as I said, not only in Artsakh, but also in the entire borderline between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is especially true in Armenia's Syunik province. While before September 27, there was roughly 120 kilometers between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Today, the Armenian village, for example, today, the Armenian village of Shurnukh is divided between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And while traveling from Goris to Kapan in Syunik province, you can see Azeri soldiers in 10 meters, Azeri flags, and welcome to Azerbaijan sign everywhere. More than 20 kilometers of Goris-Kapan road, which is the road also connecting Armenia and Islamic Republic of Iran, goes through the Azerbaijani territory. This is the reality. This is the sad reality. Why we lost the war? First, Azerbaijan was stronger than Armenia. We should accept realities. If we want to be predictable, we should accept realities. The Azerbaijani army surpassed the Armenian army on the battlefield, but first and foremost, the forces in the air were unequal. 3 million Armenians were fighting against 10 million Azerbaijan plus Turkey, Syrian jihadists, as Garo, you mentioned, and Israeli and Turkish attacking drones. This was a technological war which we lost. Second, we lose the war before it started. We were losing it since May 1994 when Russians brokered the ceasefire. The time was not on our side, unfortunately. Third, we had no friends. No one supported us. Since 1996 Lisbon OSCE summit, we were told many times that the territories we call liberated and historical Armenian and as a constitutional part of Artsakh Republic must be returned. Since 2015, our strategic ally, Russia, pushed and pressured us to withdraw at least from 5 adjacent territories, then 2 territories, Karvajar and Berzor, or Kelbajar and Lachin. Fourth reason why we lost the war. This Armenian elected government this is my personal understanding, elected catastrophe. This government was not able to put the state on the rails of war, unfortunately. Fifth, Turkey supported Azerbaijan, and as I said, Armenia had no ally. Sixth, Turkish-Azerbaijani new generation war technology, as I said, surpassed our capacity. Seventh, for more a quarter century, Azerbaijan prepared for a war. We, Armenia prepared for status quo. We did nothing or did little to pay for a peace and solution and received the humiliation. We wanted not what necessary for Armenia, but what we dream and what we desire. This was wishful thinking, and this is not the first time in our history. The same mistakes we did back in 1920 when we lost Kars and adjacent territories, when we lost at that time about 3,000 square kilometers. And I am sure we'll do same historical mistake in the future if we not to calculate our strength and abilities. And build a peace is much more difficult than to fight. And this is my short, opening words, and I don't want to be longer, and I would like to invite our viewers. And by the way, as you, Karnig, mentioned, now in a honorary consulate, we have guests, and thank you for coming. So now I'm ready for Q&A. And before that, I would like to say a couple of words about my new books. This book, which called Mahvan Hovid in Armenian. This is my diary. This is my diary. And during the wartime, during the 44 days while I was in Artsakh, I covered short stories, human stories, tragic stories. Here we have also my my first book's fourth publication, new one, brand new one. It was published a week ago, Karabakh Diary, green and black. I added about 70 pages, and in these 70 pages, I described the war, 40-day war, last war. Also, here we have our two other books, Karabakh Diary in English and Armenians and Turks in English. So I'm ready for Q&A. And thank you again for having me in this beautiful, in this wonderful city, Chicago. Yes.
Can I begin with the first question?
Of course.
One of the 7 points was that Armenia had no friends. How do you think the American election period, before, in the middle of the war, beginning of the war, the fact that Donald Trump polls weren't looking good, was obviously looking like he wasn't going to get reelected, and his relationships with Azerbaijan and Turkey, how did that impact the action and the timing of the attacks?
Thank you. I think that the timing chosen by Azerbaijan was unique time. First, the COVID situation all over the world. Second one, Azerbaijan understood that in Armenia, we have a new government, new generation leadership, and for them, that was the, quite a good time to start a war. The third, American elections, of course. And also But the most important thing is the following. Since 2015, Russians clearly told us, pushed and pressured us, the previous Armenian government led by Serge Sargsyan, that you should withdraw from the territories around Nagorno-Karabakh. And in 2016, we had a 4-day war. In reality, it was not an even 4-day war. It was a 12-hour war. And Russians mediated, and it is widely spoken and widely accepted that Serge Sargsyan and Armenia promised that after the war, the Armenian forces must withdraw from the territories. So that is why Azerbaijan, stopped the war activities. And after 2016 April war, in Armenia, we had Sasnatzer rebellion, which is in a way postponed the Karabakh solution. Then in 2017, we had parliamentary elections. Then Serge Sargsyan became prime minister and the head of state for the third time. And then we had the Velvet Revolution. So we can assume that this Azerbaijani aggression was prepared much more earlier. But because they received some kind of, guarantees from Armenian side that we are ready for concessions, we are ready for solution, Azerbaijan did not start a war. And in 2019, 2020, when Azeris understood that Nikol Pashinyan is not ready for compromises, they decided that this is the right time to start a war and to win the war.
If I may, Tatul, take a question. I was messaged a subject I wanted to raise, and I guess we'll just go back and forth between the online viewers and the in-person viewers. You mentioned that the war is not over. And since the signing of the trilateral statement, I think many of us have watched in some in horror, quite frankly, to see, like you mentioned, Shurnuch, and we know that there are other concessions that have seemed to have followed suit since the war, the active hostilities were concluded. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? When you say the war is not over, what do you envision happening on the ground, particularly with respect to the Republic of Armenia border and what remains of Artsakh today over the next, we've already been 5 months. What's going to happen over the next 3 to 4 months? What do you see happening if the war is not yet over?
Well, I think that in coming 5 years, probably we'll have stable situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, also along the borders between Armenia and Azerbaijan, because now we have Russian peacekeepers in Artsakh, also in Syunik province. But this is the time when Armenia and Armenians all over the world should do their best to support Artsakh and Armenia. During the wartime, during the 44-day wartime, the diaspora did their best to to save more lives. And that support is very well known, and thank you for that. And I'm saying this as an ordinary Armenian. I know how Armenians do their best all over the world, in Paris, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in Tehran, in Moscow, to help Armenia and Artsakh. So in coming 4 or 5 years, I think that the situation will be stable. Then what will happen if Russians will leave the territory? So many Armenians think that Russians will never leave our region. This is not true. Historically, this is not true. Look, Russians left Armenia, namely one province, back in 1915, more than 100 years ago. Then at the end of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, Russian forces left Western Armenian territories, then Eastern Armenian territories, namely Turkish Armenia and Russian Armenia. And in 1991, just 30 years ago, Soviet troops left Nagorno-Karabakh. That was the 26th of December 1991, the last days of the Soviet Union. And the next day, the real war started between Armenians and Azerbaijanis, between Nagorno-Karabakh and Azerbaijan. So what will happen if after 5 years, Russians will leave the territory, will leave Artsakh and Syunik? That's why I'm saying that war is not over, and we Armenians should be ready for the new war. And what should we do? 3 steps. First, we should have new government, because this government can't negotiate with victorious Azerbaijan. Second one, we should recover our economy. And third, we should rebuild our army. So we have time. We have about 5 years period time in order to help Artsakh. And we should understand the following simple thing. Russia is in Armenia. Yes, Russia is our strategic ally, strategic partner, but Russia is in Armenia, is in Artsakh, because their interests predict them to stay in Armenia. So what will happen if they leave South Caucasus again, as they left back in 1915, 1917, 1991? This is my short reply, short comment.
Karnig, if I may interject, Tatul, you have been traveling. I know you were in New Jersey, New York area, Cleveland. Now you're in Chicago. You'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada soon, and I think you'll be coming my way to Los Angeles, Southern California. And that's just, I'm talking the US. I don't know where else you might be going in the US or outside of the US. You're free. I welcome you to inform our viewers. The viewers are writing comments, which I'd like to preface it by the following. You gave a pretty good overview about where the Russians have been and where they have not been and where they were and they left. I've often said on this program, on Frontlines and elsewhere, that when the Russians and the Turks are on good terms with each other, nothing good comes out of it for us Armenians. And increasingly, it appears that they are on good terms with one another. Karnig and I had a conversation with the House Intelligence Committee chairman of the US Congress, Congressman Adam Schiff. And the question that came up was, while the US is either unable or is being ignored by its ally, Turkey, by Azerbaijan, which is supported by Turkey, where does US go from there in terms of sanctions? You spoke about a new government in Armenia that is a necessity. I agree with you. It remains to be seen if the elections are going to produce the kind of new government that we hope will be the new face, the non-defeated face of the Republic of Armenia. There's a lot on the horizon. What are your thoughts about, while all of that is taking place, the viewers, for example, one person, Ms. Zakarian, is writing about these Azeris freely going around at the border villages and terrorizing the villagers. We know the human rights defender of Armenia, Arman Tatoyan, is nonstop going to the Sunik Ghapan region and documenting the outrageous human rights violations, where someone's backyard, all of a sudden it's supposed to be Azerbaijan, and the field where the cow goes to graze is not returned. Tell us your thoughts about all of those things that I threw at you, and tell me, you know, as His Honor, the Honorary Consul General in Chicago, our good friend Oscar, opined, and rightfully so, that we Armenians do not give up. We're victorious. We will prevail in the end. You see a path for us to prevail in the short term, or is this going to be years of struggle, slow progress that we have to be digging in and getting ready for it? None of this once in a while. We are concerned about Armenia, but really we should be concerned about Armenia and Artsakh on a daily basis. Us diasporans, I mean.
Well, we should win. We have no other option. We must win, and we should do our best in Armenia, all over in diaspora, to support Artsakh. How we should do this? Well, I can't elaborate more to say how we can work in coming days, in coming weeks, in coming months, in coming years. But it is true, and it is very much understandable that 3 million for 3 million Armenians will not be easy to fight or to live between 80 million Turkey and 10 million Azerbaijan. We should look at the picture and understand that we are in a very geographically very bad situation. But this is the reality. This is the sad reality. So we must do our best as a state and as a nation to protect Armenia and the continuation of Armenia, Nagorno-Karabakh. This is my short comment. On the other hand, I think we should be involved in initiatives that are taking place right now in the Caucasus. I mean the possible opening of the borders, the possible opening of the roads and railroads. This is not, Armenia is a state. Still, Armenia is a sovereign state. So we should not behave as a, onlookers. We should act as a state and to be involved in the processes which is taking place right now in our region. I understand that this is not easy thing. It is not easy. It is very, very hard to talk with Turkey, with Azerbaijan, especially when now, as Garo, you mentioned, this is the time of Russian-Turkish new friendship. But we must talk with Turkey, because if we not, Russian will talk. So this is very important for us to talk with Turkey and with Azerbaijan.
Tatul, there are people that, have a real problem, and I can understand and appreciate, and I must admit, I have a personal problem. Perhaps it is born out of 60 years of being reminded of what the Turkish predecessors, the Ottomans, and then subsequent governments have done in terms of anti-Armenian rhetoric, propaganda, and discrimination, both in Turkey and outside. We have POWs. We still have prisoners of war. While I get the economics and the economy and opening borders, but how can a government expect its people, how can a Republic of Armenia expect its diaspora to be okay with opening borders with Turkey or Azerbaijan and engaging in trade when a couple of hundred, if not more, of our prisoners of war, most of whom are civilians that were captured and are still being held, are there? It's just, we want all good things. We want peace, but the price of peace should not be a single Armenian soul rotting away in an Azeri prison.
That's right. That's true, Garo. You are right. And everywhere, every Armenian, in Armenia, outside Armenia, we should say, and we should push and pressure Azerbaijan that this should be a precondition that every Armenian should leave the should leave the Azerbaijani prisons. And this situation is not acceptable. And as a state, we should do our best with our friends in Russia, in United States, everywhere, to push and pressure Ilham Aliyev to let civilian Armenians who are in the Azerbaijani jails to return to Armenia. This should be a precondition.
I'd like to, sorry not to interrupt, Tatul, but I think we're going to switch over to the in-person crowd at the consulate for the next couple of questions.
Yes,
and then
yes.
We'll return to the online crowd as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Karnig. Now time, we have several questions here.
Yes,
in the consulate. So please.
Mr. Hakobyan, several times you mentioned that this is a zero-sum game. First of all, I'd like to get your insights how to make this non-zero-sum game in general. And also you mentioned that there are no friends for us and we have to probably open up, be ready to talk with Azerbaijan and Turkey. But let's look from a point of dignity. If they are making ethnic cleansing, they are continuing doing this, destroying the churches and continue humiliating Armenians all over the world. How the state should go and talk with them? Is it, I'm not the international expert in international relations, but is it acceptable to kind of do these steps ahead when you are talked down with that way? So, and is it connected maybe to having a friends? If we maybe more proactively defended our approach over the 30 years, probably we would have friends. So this, I would like to receive your comments about this, and also about the same. You said also kind of support, like diaspora support, Armenian diaspora support, or stuff. But I think it's kind of internal looking. We should think about being all of us in the same situation, and not saying come and support us, but rather come with us and build the country together. Like, I don't see in Constitution now, in anywhere except probably Armenian mentioned recently, that diaspora should legally have more power to participate in the country and build it. Thank you very much.
The first question, I didn't understand. You mean, you said zero-sum game. What do you mean?
You mentioned about zero.
Yes, I mentioned, but the question?
How you would turn this, how Armenia should turn this into a different game?
I see. Well, as I said, after 5 years, Russians will leave or will stay another 5-year period time, but Russians will not forever will stay in Artsakh, in Syunik, in our region. So we should be ready for a new war. And history shows that every time when we have a zero-sum game, the defeatist party is trying to start a new war and to change the situation. Now we are in a situation in 1994, the situation when Azeris war at that time. So we changed our places, you know. When I'm saying that we should talk to Azerbaijan and Turkey, of course, we understand how it's difficult. I understand that now Armenia in a way is humiliated. Now we are in a situation when Aliyev is, you know, is traveling in Shushi, in other places, playing snowball, you know. I understand what you mentioned, but is there another option? Can you tell me other option? So if we want, and really we want, and we must return our citizens from Azerbaijani jail, how should we do that? Can you tell me other way? So what to do? Close our mouths and wait? Russians will help us, Americans will help us. I understand that it is not easy to talk with Azeris, with Turks, concerning diplomatic relations, opening the borders, etc., etc. We know that there are a lot of you know, things. Especially, we should also remember Armenian genocide issue. I understand it very well, but can you tell me other options?
I would try to kind of continue this topic in a way that you mentioned the genocide, is that it seems the Turkish policy now is to push ahead and get concessions about like not talking about the genocide in the international arena and like leave behind everything.
It's not negotiable. The Armenian genocide issue is not negotiable from Armenian side. And I don't believe that any Armenian government should negotiate and should, you know, this is not, since 1991, all Armenian governments, all Armenian presidents, we are not ready, and we will never negotiate Armenian genocide issue. But that doesn't mean that there is no ways to talk with Turkey, Turkey. Yeah.
Well,
yes, Arsen.
I want to make a quick comment. I don't think it's true. I think we have negotiated the Armenian genocide with the protocol process. I think the historic commission.
But it was some kind of hidden.
No, I mean, what I'm trying to say is when we say that it's non-negotiable, all I'm saying is the cost of decoupling the Karabakh issue from Armenian Turkey process came at the cost of making the Armenian genocide discussion in some kind of a packaging that was acceptable for the larger Turkish crowd. So I'm saying it is, and it has been actually.
Yes, in a way, yes, you are right. And by the way,
let me interrupt for 1 second. Could you repeat the question so that our audience online can
Arsen, can you come close here to...
No, all I was saying that the Armenian genocide issue has been part of the negotiations, and it has somehow been negotiable. And then this needs to be recognized. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Arsen, yes, Arsen mentioned Armenian Turkish football diplomacy when we negotiated 2 protocols, and in that 2 protocols, the Armenian genocide issue in a way is negotiated. And one more important aspect. When for the first time, Robert Kocharyan, the 2nd president of Armenia, and his foreign minister Vartan Oskanyan, when they brought the Armenian genocide issue on the Armenian foreign policy agenda, their intention at that time was to sell the Armenian genocide issue and in a way to push and pressure Turkey. So we have such kind of episodes of our history, our Armenian history. But again, Armenian genocide issue is not negotiable. And let me say couple of things. After the Armenian genocide, 1915, when the first Armenian Republic established, we had diplomatic relations with Ottoman Empire. The first state who recognized Republic of Armenia was Ottoman Empire. The first state who opened embassy in Yerevan, in the central Yerevan, was the Ottoman Empire. The first state who sent his envoy, at that time representatives or ambassador, was Ottoman Empire, Mr. Mehmet Ali. So just after 3 years of Armenian genocide, the founding fathers of Republic of Armenia had diplomatic relations with the perpetrators of Armenian nations, namely Talat Pasha, Cemal Pasha, and Enver Pasha. And no one says that the founding fathers, Kajaz Nuni Khatisyan, they negotiate Armenian genocide issue. And one more short comment. In 1980, during 1980-1920, we had Armenian-Azerbaijani relations. Azerbaijan had embassy in the central part of Yerevan. We had an embassy in Azerbaijan. We had Armenian-Azerbaijani relations. Please.
My question is,
can you, yeah.
Armenia was in a rough neighborhood. Now it is rougher than ever. Now, thank you for explaining option number 1. Now, is there an option number 2 where, according to Mr. Rafi Bedrosian from Toronto, if you live in a neighborhood, you better be in good terms with your neighbors. And recently, Mr. Taner Akşam, Dr. Taner Akşam, he was discussing Armeno-Turkish relations, and he stated that if we look at France and Germany, they fought for years. And now he says, borders have no meaning, don't exist between the two. Now, as I said, option number 2, can we also consider this option, though it may not be ideal, as an acceptable formula? Thank you.
Well, I don't think that the option you mentioned is acceptable one for Armenia and for Armenians, for diaspora Armenians. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine, open, no borders between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Caucasus is not look like Europe, free Europe, and Azerbaijanis and Turks are not Europeans. Well, Armenians also not Europeans. We understand it. Well, actually, we are Europeans, but I mean politically. So what we should do? I think Turkey, first of all, should end the blockade. Turks closed the border in 1993 and in a solidarity with their brothers in Azerbaijan. So now they received everything. Now Turks can open the borders. So if Turks open the borders, of course, we can negotiate about establishing of diplomatic relations, but not negotiate Armenian genocide issue. This is my short comment on your question.
Tatul, I'd like to switch back online because we're going to be online for another 8 minutes, and I'm sure the conversation will continue in the consulate, but I'd like to switch it over to Garo to ask a question, and then we can switch back to the consulate.
Tatul, you're aware that the church was there one day and the next day it was not, the Meghaghaken church. You're aware that the president of Azerbaijan giving a speech to the new Azerbaijan party proudly talked about the new generation of Azerbaijanis who are being raised with hatred towards Armenians. You're aware about the Turkish president speaking about the commemoration of all the characters that were key perpetrators or masterminds of the Armenian genocide during the military parade in Baku. So when we talk about Germany and France not having borders, Germany acknowledged the Holocaust. Turkey is talking about committing yet another genocide. And even, I dare say, the European Convention on Human Rights has confirmed that the killing of Armenians in Azerbaijan had an ethnic motivation and was encouraged by the authorities of Azerbaijan in that vein, in that sense. In a utopian universe, the Turks would apologize for the genocide. The Azeris would apologize for their crimes against humanity that they committed during the 44-day war of aggression, at a minimum. And then we could talk about opening borders, and we could talk about making peace and being good neighbors. I have the utmost respect for Rafi Bedrosian and all those who want to see things go to normal. But I have to say, Tatul, when you say that the diaspora would not accept that, I don't think that Armenia or Artsakh or Armenians in Armenia and Artsakh would accept that, because how can you? I mean, these barbaric acts just happened, and you know, unless there's some accountability, unless there's some kind of a remedy, unless there is a checks and balances by the universal community, short of that, you would want the perpetrator to make a statement of allocution. What are your thoughts about that?
You are true. You are true, Garo. I don't want even comment what you said. 100% you are true. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that we should have, you know, neighborly relations with Azerbaijan and Turkey. I'm saying we should have a friendly relations. I'm saying that we should have some kind of relations because Armenia is still independent and sovereign state. And if we look, when we are not talking with Azeris and with Turks, Russians are speaking. Russians are talking. So now there are some kind of, you know, it is not widely, of course, spread, but some Armenians in Armenia say that, you know, Armenia now can't protect his borders. Now we are in a situation when we are not able to defend us. And some people even think that probably Armenia in a way should be part of Russia. So when I'm saying we should try to have some kind of contacts between with Turkey and Azerbaijan, for me this is very important in a way to you know, the Armenian dependent from Russia to diminish. This is one way to diminish Armenia's dependence from Russia, and then dependence day by day is increasing. So when we have 80% of our borders closed by hostile Turkey and hostile Azerbaijan, Armenians think that the best way not to be slaughtered again by Turks and Azeris is to be part of Russia. This is not acceptable for me. But as you said, we should have preconditions. First precondition, all Armenian citizens should come from Azerbaijan, should be released from Azerbaijani jails. Turkey should end the blockade. So I'm not saying that we should have friendly relations with these two nations, Azerbaijan and Turkey.
And, you know, if I may interject real quickly here, Tatul, I think that, Garo, in one of our previous conversations, I think it was with David Davidian, there was this discussion about the projection of sovereignty and the exercise of sovereignty. And I think that might be the nuance here that, that Tatul, you're trying to make here, is that it is an exercise of sovereignty in order to participate in discussions regarding in the region. I think that that is a, obviously, and I think the points, Garo, you raise are extremely valid as well, that we find ourselves in a precarious balance here, and the ability to project that sovereignty, to exercise sovereignty is of importance, but very tricky in this environment. But I think it's an important point to make. Before I switch over, I believe that there's another question. If we could turn the camera to Honorary Consul Mr. Tatosian, I think would like to ask a question as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Karnig. Mine's a question for Tatul, but in a way it's a question for each of us. I mean, is this inevitable? These hostilities, this battling, is it going to be forever? What legacy and what do we want to leave for the next generation? You have kids, you have children. Are we going to be like Palestinians and Jews? Armenia, Turkey, are we going to be that? Is that where we're going to go? Is that us? Or is there another way? I'm just asking. We're sitting here in the diaspora. Okay, we can talk and have ideas. But what do you want to pass on? What do we want to pass on to the next generation? That's the question.
Well, you know, Council, if I may, Honorary Council, we want to pass on a life of peace and prosperity, but not at the cost of capitulation or subservience to nations around us that are stronger than us militarily and have no regard for human rights. Now, I don't know the formula for that, but I do know what is clearly inhumane if it's going to come peace and prosperity at the expense of Armenians being treated as second-class citizens of the region, not in their own republic. Although, you know, the idea that today in the southern region of Armenia, in Syunik, in Gapan, when you have Azerbaijani soldiers driving up and down the streets, and you have welcome to Azerbaijan signs on the road that 100 meters or 100 yards previously, you think you're in Armenia, and all of a sudden there's a sign that says welcome to Azerbaijan. That doesn't really sit well in terms of sovereignty or identity. That smacks me of people trying to change, take away your sovereignty, and to take away your identity. Your question is a brilliant one. Your call is a brilliant one. But the solution, I know what doesn't work. I don't know what works. If I did, I would be perhaps in politics or diplomacy or things of that nature.
Tatul, would we be able to get your thoughts on that question as well?
Well, I will be very short. You know, these kind of discussions are very important. This kind of open, in a way, provocative discussions are very important for us to formulate a formula how we should, Armenians and Republic of Armenia, deal with Turkey and Azerbaijan. And this conversation is part of that endeavor to try to find a formula. I understand that it's not easy to deal with Turks and with Azeris, especially this time after the 44 day of disastrous war. But I would like to remind all of us, all of you, that in 1920s, in the first year of our independence, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, Robert Kocharian, Serge Sargsyan, and every Armenian government tried to negotiate with Turkey and with Azerbaijan. And this is new thing. This is new thing. The new thing is that now we lost the battle. That's why it's not easy for us. I myself, since 1997, I met many times with Azeri journalists, experts. Even I traveled twice to Baku in 1999 and 2001. I traveled to Baku. At that time, we were victorious state, victorious party. Now the situation has changed, and now it's much more difficult for us as a citizens of Republic of Armenia, diasporan Armenians, to talk with Turkey. But this kind of conversations is necessary for us to understand how we should go and try to find the formulas. And thank you, Karnig. Thank you, Garo. Thank you, Oscar, and thank you all of us to join this evening. We tried to, in a way, to discuss and find the formulas, what to do next.
And thank you very much, Tatul. Obviously, this is a different format for us. We're used to dealing in our discussions directly, and it's nice to have an in-person crowd there with which to participate. So I'd like to again thank the Honorary Consulate for hosting you physically in the Honorary Consulate there for this discussion. I'm sure that the discussion will be continuing in person. I am absolutely sure of it. I think we've touched on a number of very important topics. Before we leave you though, Tatul, I'd like to ask the closing question, and perhaps with a short response, you can direct us in this way in terms of your experience on the ground in Artsakh. How important is it right now? And I ask this somewhat rhetorically, but I want to hear your perspective, for the diaspora to focus and refocus and double down its efforts in preserving the Armenian character of Artsakh and preserving the Armenian people in Artsakh and lending its support. We hear a lot about political divisions going on right now in Yerevan, in the diaspora, vis-a-vis the Qarabakh issue, the Artsakh issue. But I'd like to come back to it because it's not an issue. It's 100,000, if not more, Armenian people that are living in a region and self-governing for 30 years. What is your thought on the direction of the diaspora in terms of what it can do more than what it has done, particularly in this unique situation where there is a very significant PR campaign where Mr. Aliyev is claiming that the issue is resolved, and we are looking for opportunities through the Minsk process and other processes. What are your thoughts on that? And perhaps you can reiterate the importance of our focus, particularly in the diaspora, on the plight of the Artsakhtsis and the Republic of Artsakh.
The Karabakh issue is not resolved. This is not true. And now this is the right time for all of us Armenians to show our strength, to support Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. And first of all, because in coming years, the status of Artsakh will be dependent on Russia. This is the right time to try to have more and more Armenians, more and more Artsakhtsis to live there. For me, now it is much more important to have Armenians in Artsakh, because what Azeris want is Artsakh without Nagorno-Karabakh, without Armenians. So we should do everything to support those persons now living in Nagorno-Karabakh and those who wanted to go and to live there, to support them. Because if we will have Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, we will never leave Nagorno-Karabakh. But if we will not have Armenian population there, the same future, the same will happen as happened with Armenian Nakhichevan. So the most important thing is right now, is to have more and more Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Thank you, Tatul. And before I kick it over to Garo for perhaps a last kind of closing statement, I just, before we at least go offline here, I'm sure the conversation will continue there. But I think in light of the war, the existential war that was fought, and the fact that April 24th is around the corner, I think it's really important for us to be able to connect the dots. You speak of Nakhichevan. I think the last thing anybody watching and anybody involved in these discussions was going to want is to see a repeat of Nakhichevan in Artsakh. It is a continuation of the program that was started from the genocide to today. We see it in the rhetoric, we see it in the purposes, we see it even in the players, the actual players, the perpetrators and the victims. We see the same story being played out. And I think in the diaspora, I think we would do ourselves and our people a great service if we can connect those dots. And with that, I want to kick it over to Garo to make just a quick closing statement before we sign off online and the conversation continues in Chicago.
Thank you, Karnig. I want to thank the Armenian Bar Association for continuing to host the Frontlines series. on its Facebook page, which this one is as well. I want to thank Asparez News, the Facebook page, for hosting it. And I want to thank the honorary consulate for the Republic of Armenia in Chicago, which always hosts our Frontlines broadcasts. Tatul, I want to thank you personally for your thoughts. I may not agree with everything you've said, and I look forward to sitting down with you across the table in Los Angeles and Glendale, perhaps, and we can exchange some thoughts. Maybe I can convince you, maybe you can convince me. And I will leave our audience with the following. I have no problem for the Republic of Armenia to speak for itself. I also, in fact, have often advocated and suggested that the Republic of Artsakh ought to speak for itself as well, directly speak for itself, whether it is in terms of any discussions with hostile forces or armies or countries around it. However, I, as an Armenian American, I, as an Armenian, born as an Armenian, will die as an Armenian. I have no problem myself personally speaking to Turks or Azerbaijanis or Russians. And I'll start by saying this. Russia, do not cause problems for Armenians going from Armenia to Artsakh and create this visa nightmare that I know it's on the way. Turkey, stop empowering and enabling Azerbaijan to go on and do all those things that are vile, literally vile. And Azerbaijan, start by releasing every single Armenian you have captured and held hostage and kidnapped and put in your prisons, where you are torturing them, and we know you are, and we have evidence. And when you stop doing that, maybe there'll be another subject matter we can talk with you. Tatul, let me know when you're going to be in town. And everybody out there in Chicago, I think I saw my friend Rafi Sarafian. Hello to you from far away. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy Tatul until we see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Garo. Thank you, Karnig.
Thank you.
We'll meet again.
Yes.
In LA. Thank you.
Very good.